Is the narcissist secretly gay? Gay. A word which once meant happy and carefree, then became associated with the concept of someone who was homosexual. And then, particularly amongst younger people, has changed its meaning further to also include something that's regarded as a bit lame, a bit rubbish, as in, your new bike's rather gay, or that was a gay shot on goal. Doesn't mean it's a homosexual shot. How can a shot be homosexual? But with language it evolves and changes. However, this isn't about the happy or carefree narcissist. As you know, we don't do happy, but we can be seen as carefree because we don't care. Nor is it about the lame or a bit rubbish narcissist, although we all know a middle mid-ranger or two who aptly fits into that category. No, this video addresses the concept of whether a narcissist is secretly homosexual. The narcissist is a chameleon. We are shapeshifters. As a consequence of the construct, this provides us with the ability to morph, to flex, to be fluid, to become lots of different things, lots of different times, to lots of different people, all for the purposes of the prime aims. Asserting control, gathering fuel, gaining the character traits, and those residual benefits. The chameleon aspect is demonstrated by the acquisition of character traits, and also the fact that sex is a weapon of mass seduction. These two aspects of the narcissistic personality collide in many different ways and different arenas, but one of those arenas is that of homosexuality. Narcissists are sexually fluid. Although it doesn't mean that the narcissist will necessarily behave in a particular way, especially where you're dealing with somatic and elite narcissists, you will have experienced in many instances that broad range of sexual peccadillos, sexual mores, sexual preferences and likes. Not all narcissists operate in that way, but many do, having interests in kink, BDSM, and so on and so forth. The sexually fluid nature of the narcissist is because, first of all, there is no true self, and there is a construct that morphs. So in the same way that that construct can morph so that the narcissist pretends to be a commercial airline pilot in order to ensnare a victim, that construct will also morph within the sexual arena to enable the narcissist to achieve those prime aims. Moreover, because sex is such a powerful method of seduction and ensnarement, when it combines with the morphing nature, the chameleon nature of the narcissist, it turns into a very potent weapon indeed. The construct alters with regard to sexual preference in order to achieve the prime aims. This alteration, however, will take place within certain parameters with regard to the constitution of the fuel matrix, the relevant school of the narcissist, fuel levels, the need for residual benefits, the extent to which there are threats to control, and the available options to the narcissist to nullify that threat to control. All narcissists have the potential for engaging in homosexual activity owing to the sexual fluidity arising from the flexible nature of the construct, and a needs-must approach to the prime aims. It's almost the narcissist will do whatever is necessary to keep the party going. Some narcissists are obviously hypersexualized individuals, and these are the somatics and the elites. And they're hypersexualized, whether gay, bisexual, or heterosexual. The individual is obviously promiscuous, has a reputation for sleeping around with multiple partners, has a string of relationships, is known for juggling several relationships at once, is known as behaving like a dog with 6 dicks, or somebody who is the town bike, or would shag a barber's floor. The narcissist has no issue with regard to restraining, hiding, or toning down their sexual behaviour. They are overly tactile because there's no boundary recognition, and the fact that people are seen as an extension of self. The narcissist is outrageously flirtatious with people. Again, a sense of entitlement and no boundary recognition. These particular narcissists will boast of their sexual conquests, will make sexual comments about people. Look at the size of the boobs on her. I bet he's well hung. Going up and groping people without invitation or consent. Chasing people down in a predatory manner. Affixing somebody with a seductive stare. Dressing in a provocative manner. Talking about their sexual experiences, irrespective of whether anybody is actually interested or wishes to listen. They're known for infidelity and also for interfering in the relationships of others, sleeping with husbands and wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, or friends. Those narcissists operate in that way without restraint and show no concern, because there is no emotional empathy, for the reputation that they have. That style, if you will, functions for them. It enables them to achieve the prime aims in a grandiose or overt set of behaviours. Other narcissists will behave in a hypersexual manner, but this takes place within their various relationships, and they are less public about it. So the narcissist may want sex 4 or 5 times a night with the relevant intimate partner, but doesn't talk about it to his friends. The narcissist may want to have sex in public places in a covert manner, but does everything possible to avoid detection. The narcissist may go at it like a shithouse door in the wind, but again comes across as prim and proper to friends and family. And the hypersexual behaviour manifests, if you will, purely in the bedroom, behind the closed doors. It is less public. Accordingly, when it comes to the issue of homosexuality, there will be homosexual narcissists who are openly gay, and there are a whole strata who are secretly gay. With regard to those that are secretly gay, where does this fit with the relevant schools? Well, the issue of being secret appertains to mid-range narcissists. The need for control, the need for fuel, character traits and residual benefits means that behaving in a homosexual manner for a narcissist can achieve those aims, and therefore it is a string on the bow. Because of a lack of boundary recognition, because of a lack of true self, because of the fluidity of the construct, behaving in a homosexual manner is a means of gaining fuel. So, for instance, flirting with somebody of the same sex, online, or going into gay chat rooms, or watching gay porn. All of that, however, is done within the shell of the facade. Because mid-range narcissists operate facades, the narcissism essentially, if it were to have a voice, would say this: our narcissist identifies as heterosexual. That's because Within his community, that deems him to be viewed as respectable. He has the nuclear family. He's seen as a regular guy. However, because we have a narcissist, there's always the opportunity to utilize his fluidity. And therefore, he has no real fixed sexuality, and instead just utilizes the appearance of heterosexuality because that's the most appropriate thing for him to create his facade. However, he can be gay. Also, he can utilize that to his advantage. But we mustn't do so to damage the facade. So, the narcissism says, we operate a balancing act. What we do is we use homosexuality as a means for gaining fuel and asserting control in certain situations, but at the same time, we have to ensure that we don't damage the facade, because if we do, that affects our control over the intimate partner primary source, non-intimate secondary source family members and friends, neighbours and so on and so forth. And therefore, the narcissist is secretly gay. Or rather, perhaps more accurately, they actually have no sexual preference whatsoever, but manifest an external portrayal of heterosexuality for the purposes of the facade, whilst remaining completely sexually fluid across all, therefore, in essence, being bisexual. However, because of the need of the facade, the homosexual aspects of their behaviour are kept secret. So it's not the case that the narcissist is actually gay, but hides it and behaves in a heterosexual manner. There is no fixed sexual preference. The narcissist, theoretically, is open to all sexual preferences, and the ones that are selected and utilised depends upon the needs of the narcissist, how easy it is to achieve them, the presence of a facade, and so on and so forth. So it is incorrect to suggest that the narcissist is truly gay but pretends to be heterosexual. He's not truly anything, because he can be all things, or she can be all things, at any time. Instead, there is a portrayal of heterosexuality whilst utilising homosexuality also. And in order to preserve the facade, the heterosexuality is shown obviously to the spouse, to the boyfriend, the girlfriend, and the homosexuality is used secretly, quietly, in that bolt hole, late at night, cruising the gay sites, entering into gay chat rooms, possibly going further, indulging in mutual masturbation over video, over Skype. Maybe even going towards hooking up with people for homosexual encounters. Not all narcissists would necessarily go as far as meeting up. The risk to the facade may be too great, and instead it is easier for them, particularly, of course, with the rise of the internet over the last 20 or so years, to have a virtual, secret, gay fuel matrix whilst maintaining a heterosexual one to the outside world. And it is the mid-range narcissists that are the greatest users of this arrangement. This is because, although they are effective with regard to their fuel gathering and assertion of control, their sexual fluidity is necessary to enable those prime aims to be obtained, because they are not the most effective narcissist. They're not the least, but they're not the most, hence their mid-range. And therefore it makes sense for their narcissism to avail itself of all options to secure those prime aims, whilst, of course, maintaining that important facade, which is very important to the mid-range narcissist. That facade of a big, decent person, of being acceptable, of being helpful, of being seen as a pillar of the community, of being the good father and husband. And of course, that is not to say that somebody who is gay isn't a good father or a good husband, but within the construct of a particular facade for that particular narcissist, if they were deemed to be homosexual, that will cause a problem with regard to the maintenance of appliances within the fuel matrix. They would, in all likelihood, lose their heterosexual spouse. She or he would escape, resulting in a problem. Significant problem. Non-intimate secondary sources may find the revelation difficult to handle, resulting in the loss of those appliances within the fuel matrix. And therefore, that is why the narcissism is careful to maintain the facade whilst ensuring that all options are available for the acquisition of fuel, character traits, etc. And that is why those are the narcissists which behave in a secretly gay manner. But they aren't secretly gay because of the lack of any fixed sexual preference. What about lesser narcissists? Well, before I move on to them, it's worth also noting that with the mid-range narcissist, one of the important points is that because they are mid-range narcissists and they are in the middle of the effectiveness of their narcissism, they often leave clues as to their secretly gay behaviour. Whether it's not deleting an internet history, whether it's having certain pictures on the phone, whether it is subscribing to particular sites and not hiding evidence of that sufficiently, being seen at a gay bar perhaps. Whatever it might be, because the mid-range narcissists are unaware and their control operates in the moment, there will be instances where they will make slight slip-ups which reveal this alternative existence. For the most part, they are good at keeping it quiet, so they aren't brazen in the behaviours because of the need to maintain the facade, but they're not totally effective at covering their tracks, so to speak, and therefore a spouse or a family member may uncover information of this secret gay life. What then of the lesser narcissists? They similarly will indulge in homosexual behaviour. Of course, there are those which are openly homosexual, there are those who are openly bisexual, in the same way that they're openly heterosexual. But with the lesser, the secrecy is not so much about keeping it covered, but more about actually being dismissive that is being gay. There is a rejection of the behaviour as being truly gay, and that belies the narcissistic mindset of it basically being masturbation with another object, which of course sex to a narcissist is indeed that. The lesser narcissist will identify as heterosexual as part of the presentation to the outside world, but in certain instances will engage in homosexual behaviour and is not necessarily particularly secretive about it. But if confronted, it will represent a threat to their narcissist's sense of control, and he will deal with it in a dismissive manner. So, for example, they might say, "It was prison. Everybody does that. I'm not gay. It was just a hole." Or, "It's just horseplay with military guys. Nothing turns on it. I'm not gay." And there almost seems to be a form of denial. And there is in a sense, because the denial is not so much about being gay, although that is how it presents and is in the conscious mind of the lesser narcissist, but it's actually the denial of the accusation. So if someone were to say, "I hear that you were treated like a little bitch in prison," or "I hear that you decided you liked men whilst you were in the Alabama Slammer," the narcissist isn't particularly bothered about the fact that they've been accused of gay from a unconscious point of view. It's the actual threat to control that comment makes. And the narcissism has to deny the threat. It is not so much about denying being gay, although that is the upshot of it all, in order to deny the threat. So the narcissist has to be dismissive about being gay in order to nullify the threat. What about the greater narcissists? Again, there will be greater narcissists who engage in homosexual behaviour, but present to the world a heterosexual facade, similar to reasons expanded upon when I was discussing mid-range narcissists. With the greater narcissist, however, they're far less likely to be caught out with regard to the behaviours. The influence of power and money prestige, the right contacts, means that they can indulge in these behaviours for the purpose of asserting control, gathering fuel, etc., and cover their tracks successfully, to ensure that anybody who does know about it will say nothing, and that the facade that they present to the world will be kept intact. But, just like the mid-ranger, there is no fixed sexual preference, but the narcissism opts for a presentation through the facade to the outside world of heterosexuality, whilst, of course, engaging in secret homosexual behaviours for the purposes of gaining fuel, asserting control, like any other narcissist. The big difference is that the greater is far less likely to have any evidence demonstrating that they engage in this, whereas the mid-ranger, there'll be clues dotted around. And I'm sure many of you have had suspicions with regard to your partner, your spouse, being somebody who is engaged in secretive gay behaviours. Not all narcissists demonstrate sexual fluidity across all gender preferences, but given the absence of a fixed true self, there is always a potential there for any kind of gender preference owing to the sexual fluidity. Whether it manifests is dependent upon the factors that I mentioned earlier on, appertaining to school of narcissist, appertaining to opportunity to use other forms of manipulation to achieve the prime aims other than utilising homosexuality. So it might be, for instance, that a narcissist is able to achieve everything that he can through the presentation of being heterosexual and never needs to use homosexuality. In other instances, the narcissist needs to use homosexuality alongside their heterosexuality in order to achieve those aims. For some, it's done in an overt way, and thus they're bisexual. Others present as wholly homosexual, not needing to use a heterosexual approach. So even with narcissists which present as openly gay, that is merely their narcissism choosing that as the most effective way, and that is their facade, where mid-range or greater. But it is not fixed. They too have the potential to engage in heterosexual sexual activity, because there is no fixed sexual preference with any narcissist. Thus, there is always the potential for any narcissist to engage in bisexual, homosexual, heterosexual behaviours, but whether they do depends upon other factors, and not every narcissist will do so because they don't need to. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.